You are going to die. The justice system has said so. No appeals, no second chances. Every day becomes a countdown. But it's not the execution that breaks you, it is everything before it. On today's episode of the Infographic Show, we're walking through what it really feels like to live and die on death row. Day 1. You've done time before, a few months in your early 20s, but hearing that the state intends to kill you is something else entirely. You've got a wife and 2 kids waiting at home. They're too young to grasp what death means. When their mom told them that daddy was going away, she really meant he wasn't coming back. That thought stayed with you through the reception and the orientation process, heavier than the chains around your wrists. It's not like regular prison, not like before. Security is much tighter. Shackled, handcuffed. They'd put you in the back of a van with blacked out windows and 2 armed officers at your side. This time around, it's like you're a VIP. No other prisoners in sight. You didn't have any belongings to check in. Why would you need them? It's not like you're gonna pick them up when you get out. That's what keeps going around and around in your head. This is forever. The processing was the same. The strip search, fingerprints, photo, and getting handed your uniform, all-white jumpsuit with Department of Corrections written on the back in big black letters. Prisoner ID 18915-088. You are now one of almost 2,000 inmates on death row in the USA. That number changes, of course. The U.S. executes anywhere from 20 to 30 inmates every year, most of them men, and there are only about 47 women on death row. This time around, there aren't any questions about whether there is any reason you can't serve your time in the general population. Death row isn't a place where you do much socializing. It is locked down 23 hours a day. The orientation guy said you were lucky. In this prison, death row prisoners who can be trusted might get a work detail. The prison doctor asks how your mental state is. You know, given that you've just been told at some point in the future you're going to be killed. You tell her you feel fine. As fine as anyone could be under the circumstances. You get the feeling you're going to see a lot of psych doctors from now on. You've read about death row syndrome. Guys going insane, delusional, psychotic. All that time alone, waiting to die. This is definitely not going to be easy. An armed escort takes you through the prison to the death row block. It gets quieter and quieter the further you walk. Death row isn't chaotic or noisy like the general population, and it hits you as soon as you stand outside of your cell. An atmosphere of misery and torment. This truly is the end of the line. Month 1. At some point, you'll be given an option. What must be the world's worst menu? Electric chair? Or would Sir prefer the firing squad? Morbid humor. There's a lot of that going around on death row. It's the only way to deal with impending death. Truth be told, and credit to your state for being generous with 3 options, you think you're gonna choose to be gassed. Frying in an electric chair just feels vicious. As for death by firing squad, while it might sound quick on paper, you just don't want a bullet to the heart. Way too brutal. But it's good to have choices. The prison is in a bit of a bind. The state ran out of lethal injection drugs, so that's why they've put the gas option on the table. You told your wife on the phone about your decision and she burst out crying. She must have read about the new cyanide gas chamber, the same kind the Nazis used. Apparently 7 U.S. states have the option, but it hasn't been used in a long time. Your place just became the 8th. The first month was quiet. No one sits around playing cards here. There's not even much shouting from the cells. Death row prisoners are a very subdued breed of convict, not like your regular prisoner at all. Most of the activity is the officers coming around every hour to check that you're all still here. The murderers, violent home invaders, child killers, and your neighbor, a serial killer. Now that is something you never wanted to say. The cell is Spartan, but at least the door has bars, not a full steel plate. It makes it less claustrophobic. There's a concrete bed with a thin mattress, a steel toilet and a sink by the door, and a single shelf, empty except for 1 photo, you and your family, taken before you made the worst mistake of your life. This is home, the last place you'll ever know besides the death watch cells before your big day. Well, if you don't get a commute, which your lawyer says she will fight tooth and nail for you. You've read that the average time a prisoner spends on death row before he dies is about 20 years. Some have waited well over 30. That is a long time to wait for an appointment. It's expensive too, depending on the state, anywhere from $1.5 million to $3 million a year. Texas is different. There was an inmate who was executed there after just 8 months. But if you stay here for 20, well, that's going to cost the state $60 million. To be honest, you don't feel worth it. Each day, the dimmer lights in your cell come on automatically at 4:30 a.m. and breakfast arrives at 5. A prisoner brings it around in a cart, and he puts it through a slot in the bars. It's always cold. The usual slop: powdered eggs, vomit, oatmeal, a slice of cheap white bread, and an apple if you're lucky. The orange juice tastes like it leaked out of a car battery. Lunch comes anywhere from 10:30 to 11 a.m., usually a mystery meat sandwich, and the last meal's about 4. It's all cheap and nasty. But at least there is a commissary. It's how you got your TV and radio. The content sucks, all prison approved, lots of baseball and religion. Thankfully, there is the prison library. You'd have already gone insane without something to read. What you don't get is yard time. Well, not with other prisoners. Officers take you out cuffed and shackled, and you walk up and down a bullpen like a caged animal. It's under a shelter and behind a wall, so you can't really see much of the sky or feel the wind. That's a big loss when it's taken away. Hopefully, they'll let you work soon, but that means meeting your neighbors face to face. And this is death row. Some of these guys have been convicted of unspeakable cruelty. Month 6. Last week, you were offered an oxy. You'd seen way too many people die from that stuff. But after months of isolation and the stress of a future death date, you were tempted. You wondered how drugs got onto death row. Then you found out it's the same as regular prison: corrupt officers or inside posted packages or passed during visits. The guy who brought the food offered it to you. $130 in a prison account. A lot of cash for one pill, but that's how it goes in prison. The guy said on the streets they go for 50. So yeah, drugs are available even on death row. Not long ago, 4 guys were executed in Alabama, and the toxicology test showed they had all been getting high. Weed, meth, synthetics, heroin. But the pain stops, you guess. Your wife visited. It felt different, awkward. You kept a lot of things to yourself. She brought the kids, but you told her not to do that again until they're old enough to understand why their father is never coming home. You told her to move on. She says she will, but not yet. You can't sit in here feeling like you're ruining her life too. She's got this crazy idea you'll receive a commute, but even if you do, it's life without the possibility of parole. You killed someone. A man who, like you, had a wife and 2 kids. It was a drunken scuffle. He swung first. You pushed back. He hit the sidewalk hard. You didn't mean to kill him. You tell yourself it was self-defense, but deep down you know there's no excuse. You've now traumatized a woman and 2 children, 12 and 14. She's expressed that she might want to take part in a restorative justice program, what they call a victim offender dialogue, or VOD. You dread the possibility, the shame, but that's the least she deserves. It'll help you get on the work program too. Year 1. You miss the rain on your face, but more you miss looking at the stars. The only nature you get on death row is cockroaches, spiders, the occasional rat. You can't stop torturing yourself thinking about the times you went camping with your wife, or when you got drunk in a cantina in Mexico during a tropical storm. Memories like these are painful. It's death row paradox for all the inmates. Everything good that ever happened to you, all the love you received or felt, becomes a torture in here. You wonder if it would have been any better to have never loved at all. Nature takes away in grief the exact amount it provides in happiness. Yeah, everyone becomes a philosopher on death row. There's still a part of you that's thinking, just get on with it and kill me. But then you contemplate non-existence. Right now it's still abstract, but you have a feeling it'll get very real a few years from now. At least you got on a work detail. Not all death rows in the US offer jobs, and for good reason. Some of these guys are extremely violent. A death row prisoner was beaten to death in California in 2024. Then there was the serial killer Jeffrey Dahmer, beaten to death with an iron bar back in the 90s in the prison gym, along with another inmate. There's no gym in here, and to be honest, you're not sure you'd want these guys spotting you with slabs of iron. Your job is in the laundry, stuffing sheets into machines and folding them for 6 hours a day. It doesn't sound like much, but the relief at getting out of your cell feels like lying back on a beach in Barbados. You've had 2 folding partners already. One, the serial killer in the next cell from you, an old dude who murdered his wife and her mom and a few other women. He likes to brag that he still gets marriage offers from pen pals. Apparently, when women fall in love with killers, it's called hybristophilia. You try not to speak to him, though. He's obviously on a lot of strong prescription drugs. He is damaged, bad to the bone. The other dude, Tim, killed his wife during a psychotic break after a meth binge. He looked genuinely traumatized about it. Said he'd been ordered by an angel he was communicating with, or they would burn in hell. But you rarely talk about that kind of stuff with him. He's a big fan of boxing, the golden age of heavyweights. Arguing about who is better takes up most of the day. You read in a poll that 58% of Americans said the US shouldn't execute prisoners with severe mental health conditions. 28% said it should. They'd probably change their mind if they met Tim. These days, it seems like a lot of Americans are changing their mind about the death penalty. 80% were in favor of it in 1990, but now just 53%. You'd always supported it. Go figure. Year 5. Every so often, an inmate's death warrant is signed, and an atmosphere of gloom fills the air. Then he takes his final walk, says his goodbyes, and that's it, one man down. You do the cell shuffle, moving to the next one. It's like Hollywood Squares. Except when it goes dark, someone has gone forever. About 10 months ago, Tim was found dead in his cell. The last time you spoke to him, he was laughing, arguing that a prime Mike Tyson would have beaten Lennox Lewis, and then he was gone. Death row syndrome. Some guys just can't hack it, but it's not always obvious when you'd speak to them. You already miss him. He committed a horrible crime, but some things he told you about his childhood sent shivers down your spine. Most of the inmates you met here were abused. Your wife sent you a book on serial killers when in Rome. It cited an FBI study that said 45% of serial killers said that they were physically abused as a child, and 74% said they were psychologically abused, like Tim, who should have been a boxer, not a meth-addicted killer. Okay, some good news, something you don't get much of on death row. Your state increased the amount of money prisoners can spend on a last meal. It's now $100, which is better than just about every other state. It's less than half of that in Florida, even less in Oklahoma, and in Texas, maybe the worst state to be on death row, you can't even choose. Your new workmate, Phil, who set a house on fire with a family inside because he did, he keeps on going on about the last meal. He sounds excited. There are a few guys in here who might have some learning difficulties. He seems to care more about free chicken nuggets with barbecue sauce than he does about dying. You tried to explain to your wife why you were still choosing gas, but it still upsets her to think about it. On the next visit, she came back with a printout of botch statistics, gassing 5.4%, which is high. She said back in the 60s, guys would sit there in pain for 20 minutes choking. She found a quote by a doctor at Johns Hopkins School of Medicine. The person is unquestionably experiencing pain and extreme anxiety. The sensation is similar to the pain felt by a person during a heart attack. So you asked, would you rather die of a heart attack or wait in the darkness for someone to shoot you? Or maybe sit in a chair and fry from a powerful electric current that might set part of you on fire? Her reaction was pretty much, fair enough. If anything good happened over the last 5 years, it was the victim offender dialogue session. You sat across from the woman of the man you killed and his teenage sons. You were ready to answer if she asked, why did you do it? But she didn't. She already knew. She just wanted to see you up close, the man who destroyed her family. It wasn't what you had expected at all. She said she forgave you. You prepared for anger and tears, and you got calm and understanding. The son looked at you like he hated you, and honestly, you hoped he did. But after a while, even he listened. You told him how sorry you were, that you'd made a terrible mistake, and that you'd understood completely if they wanted you dead. They don't support the death penalty, but they will be there when you die. I'm sorry, you said again as they left. I really am. All of them gave you a look as if to say, you haven't just wrecked our lives, you've wrecked your own. They say having a child turns you into a man. Maybe it does, but looking into the eyes of the person whose loved one you killed ages you another 50 years. Year 10. You've seen a few men take that last walk past the cells, heading for the van that takes them to the death house. It's the heaviest part of being on death row, the sound of the cuffs, the shuffle of feet, and knowing that you'll never see that man again. The last one was just 29, 10 years in here, and his time ran out. Your own case got delayed after the court ruled that you hadn't been properly represented. You liked your old state-appointed lawyer, but your new ones say there's a chance your sentence could be commuted. Life without parole isn't exactly a dream come true, but it beats eternal blackness. Your kids came to see you last week. Your wife is clearly moved on with someone else, though she hasn't asked for a divorce yet. That's her business. You're the one who put yourself in here. It's the kids you feel bad for. They get bullied at school. Just the other week, your appeal made the tabloids again. Killer shame in large bold. The article said you were trying to wriggle out of your sentence, citing extenuating circumstances, job loss, 2 kids, depression. A friend of the victim called it a shameful insult to his memory by a cowardly man who refuses to face justice. How do you explain that to teenagers? But it's more than that. A part of you is rotten, it always has been, and you can't tell them that, because a part of you is in their DNA. With a death sentence, you become a kind of dark celebrity. Journalists come knocking at your wife's door. They turn up at the prison. Activists and friendly citizens write you letters. Maybe that's why you never touched drugs after all these years. You didn't want to let people down. So many strange things go through your head on death row. Time starts to feel like a trick. You spent days hoping you're a brain in a box. You've never been religious, but lately you catch yourself thinking about the afterlife, wondering if maybe there is another shot somewhere, another chance to do things right. The hardest part right now is knowing there will come a day when you have to say goodbye to your kids. By law, you can choose your witnesses for your death. There's no way you're going to ask for your children to be there, but you want your wife watching through that glass screen. You can't die without feeling her love near you. The room will be packed with state witnesses too, some no doubt rooting for you to die despite never knowing you. That's tough, being despised by complete strangers. These kinds of thoughts didn't bother you 10 years ago, but as each year passes, it gets harder in here. Tick-tock, tick-tock. It's like getting ready for the worst date of your life every single day. Year 20. The governor has just signed your death warrant. There are petitions still circulating and your lawyers are filing motions for a stay. A few men have gotten stays from federal appeals court minutes before their execution, but only to die a few months later anyway. If you're honest, you don't even want another 20 days or couple of months. That's just more waiting, more pretending there's hope. How many goodbye letters can you write before it feels meaningless? How many last tearful visits can you have before they feel ridiculous? It's torture for everyone involved. You took a man's life and you deserve punishment. But this ritualized killing carried out with forms and witnesses and signatures, it feels wrong. A man should pay for his crimes, but an eye for an eye feels ancient. Think a lot about the past on death row. Where did it all go wrong? What made you the person you became? Everyone in here is a product of lives that went wrong very early. You look at them often and you try to imagine where they were once happy children who needed affection. When you think back to who you were when you first started down this road, it's like watching someone else's life through frosted glass. Your whole childhood is a blur. Violence, chaos, parents who didn't care, neighborhoods that felt like battlefields. It's like you never had direction, like you grew up in the fog, and then one day you're standing over a dead body, blood trickling down a storm drain. You've had plenty of time to read the case law. You've studied the death penalty appeals, the Supreme Court decisions. You've read the crime scene accounts. When a victim is a child or a woman tortured before dying, you stop feeling sorry for the man in the chair or the gas chamber. Some guys who will be executed did vile things, but it still feels uncivilized to kill them. Half of the men in here should have been institutionalized long before they committed their crime. Suddenly, you're seeing more of the Department of Corrections officials checking on your well-being, asking if you're sleeping, if you need a chaplain. They hand you forms, cremation or burial. Who gets the ashes? Do you want a last meal? What about your worldly belongings? And again, are you sure you're all right? It's hard to describe how incredibly weird it is when people who are about to kill you are so caring and nice. Okay, the serious stuff, last meal. Most guys pick junk food. John Wayne Gacy ordered a dozen fried shrimp, a bucket of KFC and fries along with a pound of strawberries, and Coke. Another man, a butcher from Mississippi, killed a guy back in '96, fed him to alligators, hurt the victim's girlfriend in the process. For his last meal, he ordered over 30,000 calories, 2 large Pizza Hut pizzas, 10 blocks of Parmesan cheese, nacho cheese, fries, milkshakes, and more. God bless America. You asked for lamb chops, roast potatoes, couscous, and Greek salad with mint sauce and red wine juice. You're gonna start with a duck liver pate and seared scallops and finish with a chocolate lava cake. Why not? It's cheaper than a mountain of junk, and they said you could choose anything if there's a restaurant nearby that can make it. Sure, some of the public will be furious, but so far it's cost them maybe $60 million in taxes, so a paltry 100 more won't break the bank. It won't be long now until they have to take you into the van to the death house, which isn't far away. Work detail is stopped to give you time to write letters and get in your final visits. The last guy you worked with in the laundry was a kid, 21 years old, who murdered both his fairly wealthy parents he claimed had abused him and his brother. He's educated, reads fancy books, puts you onto Buddhism and Alan Watts. He wants to study here. But study for what, exactly? Isn't knowledge supposed to get you something? And that's what happens right before the execution date. Everything feels pointless, like there was no point in reading or collecting things or caring about what happens on the news. It all feels futile. Still, futile is better than nothing. On the last shift, he asks you, "So, how do you feel about it?" You answer the same as you always have. You don't know. Scared it'll be botched? Maybe. But at least you won't die alone. Your wife will be looking at you through the glass as you close your eyes for the last time. Last visit, she told you she never did find another man, but kept you thinking that she might have because she didn't want you to feel guilty. She was fine, she said, alone. It's hard to explain how important this is to have someone who knows you are more than just a guy who killed someone. You have exactly 18 days left to live. 3 of those days will be spent in the death house. It's a somber atmosphere again, but this time you are the one that's leaving. It's been an eventful week. A spree killer 3 cells down just got diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer. Death row drama. Now he has 2 dates with death racing against each other, but they'll do everything to keep him alive. Death. No bugs, roaches, spiders, rats, no TV, but the officers have pushed one close so you can watch outside the bars. Every morning, you get stripped out, shackled, cuffed, and showered with a female officer watching. That's a first, a new humiliation, and so late in the game. A nurse comes with your medication, checks that you swallow. Are you okay? Blood pressure, pulse, check your weight twice a day. They don't want you passing out and spoiling the main event. Warden, psychologist, doctor all ask you again and again, how do you feel? Are you okay? City officials, state politicians, media, like you're an exotic animal at the World's Fair. No one likes this, by the way. The officers, the warden, the staff, you can see it in their faces. They don't enjoy watching a person about to die. And then comes the last day. More security checks in the morning, regular breakfast, and an hour with the spiritual advisor who liked your theory about the universe and eternal recurrence. He holds your hand, tells you people are protesting outside the prison. He doesn't even talk about God, just explains that he will be there with you when the time comes. You won't feel any pain, he promises. How does he know? His grip tightens, and he says again, I'll be at your side the whole way through. You allowed yourself to cry. I don't want to die, you admit for the first time since you were convicted, a tear rolling down your cheek. You can't be like this in front of your family. He's the last human you'll be allowed to touch, the last warmth you will feel. A stranger, yes, but it feels good. All your goodbyes have already been sent by letter, but you have one last phone call to make. You've been dreading this day for decades. No tears, no outbursts, you tell yourself. You love them and you'll love them forever, you say, the receiver heavy in your hands. Bye, Dad, says your youngest, a grown man. Now you understand why they say hearts break. Yours just did. 3 p.m., another strip search, shower, and you change into a light blue all-in-one suit. 4 p.m., dinner time, the lamb. Looks great, but for some reason, you don't have an appetite. 6:30, the warden comes around with 2 officers. Time to go. In the execution room, there's a gurney in the middle of a sealed glass chamber. Medical and prison staff start the process of fastening you down and connecting your body to monitors. The warden stands next to the phone on the wall outside. Last-minute stay? It's not a hope you've ever allowed yourself to have, and you won't start now. Behind a clear glass window, your only selected witness arrives in the room, your wife. The rest follow, your victim's wife, children, relatives, and 3 policemen in uniform. Then comes the spiritual advisor and medical personnel. Some of the others must be journalists, state-selected officials, and reputable citizens there to see that the state does its job. You try not to focus on the window, not yet. They close the door and check the seals. You're terrified. You will never dream again. You will never think, want, need, laugh, or cry. You may now make your last statement, the warden says through a speaker. Now you look at the window. I love my wife and my children, and I'm sorry for the damage I've caused my victim and his family. I hope you can all forgive me. His name was Robert, your victim. Robert's wife nods her head as if to say, I believe you. You feel a mix of shame and hope. Hope because there are good people in the world. Shame because you hurt those people. Warden, we're ready, says a technician. May God have mercy on your soul. The executioner will pull a lever which will drop cyanide pellets into sulfuric acid. This will produce a hydrogen cyanide gas that'll kill you. You've been told to breathe deeply so you'll lose consciousness faster, but you don't. You try to hold on, your eyes fixed on the ceiling as your eyes and lungs start to burn. Pain, and then a flash. Your wife giving birth, the pain of life itself, the full cycle. You start to choke. This is it. Love, fear, acceptance, calm, black. A death sentence ends everything in one moment, but a life sentence means reliving that moment every single day. Watch what a life sentence actually feels like, day 1 to year 40, to see how time becomes its own punishment, or click on this video instead.